Good morning, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Trending Echoes, brought to you by Trends Research and Advisory. Ladies and gentlemen, very excited to be here at the Expo City in the beautiful Dubai, and also very excited to have a very special guest with us. She's a renowned artist, and we really just have to dive straight into it because there's way too much to be said about this guest. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the episode, Roudhah Almazroei. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. The pleasure's all mine.
Now, today, themed youth, children, education, and skills. And you are the perfect guest to be here with us today in the studio to talk about all of that.
Yeah.
Now, you're an artist. Give us a bit of a background. Tell us a little bit more about what you do, but most importantly, the connection that you have to sustainability.
So the connection I have to sustainability, I just want to preface that it's a fairly early thing, or I mean like something that I just started. But going back to my background as an artist, I actually study visual arts and art history. I'm in my final year. So talk about the youth. I'm currently 20 years old. I study at New York University, a double major of visual arts, or like a double track of visual arts practice and art history as well. I only started venturing into integrating sustainability into my artwork once Trends reached out to me and asked about what could you create that has to do with that in a place like COP28. And that's how I came up with an artwork that is, or an installation that is here at COP.
Now, most people, when they think of the word art, they think of traditional art, like, you know, having some sort of sculpture or painting on the wall. Even though you do some of that, we also saw something a few days ago, very interesting. You walked me into this high-tech room. We're able to look at, all the different heats being emitted by human bodies and things like that. Tell us a little bit more. How is that art, and what was it exactly that we were looking at?
Yeah, and that's why I like to call it an installation, or more of like an experience rather. Right. And the art about it is I think the nature of it, or how it came to be in a very artistic way. Like you mentioned, it's not traditional artwork. It's not a sculpture. It's not a painting that you can physically like buy and get or anything like that. Like you can't necessarily acquire this, maybe. Right. But it's more of like an artistic experience, and it's curated in a way that is that integrates these artistic elements. But all of this high tech that you were talking about is something new that I'm really, really excited into integrating into my arts practice.
You walked me into the installation.
Yes.
I was able to see myself on the screen.
Yeah.
In all sorts of different shades and colors.
Yeah.
Representing the heat that is being emitted. How does it work? You've got some sort of camera.
Yes.
A thermal camera, I assume.
Yes.
Okay. And the point behind that is to be able to showcase what? What are we looking at?
We're looking at the imprint and the effect that humans have on Earth. Not necessarily because it's a bad thing or a good thing or anything like that, but it's very important to know and become aware of our power and realize how much of a catalyst we are in this planet. We have the power to create good or create bad, emit heat, not emit heat, carbon dioxide, gasoline, all of these, terms that we're hearing a lot in this event. But it's more of like a reflective, mirroring experience. You want to see yourself, or you want to contemplate more on what is my role here on Earth and how much power I have and how much control and agency I have here.
So this installation or your piece of art looked very interesting. It's a room that you walk into, and we've got the screen. Obviously, you've got some sort of thermal pad where you can put your hands, and
it changes color.
It changes colors
depending on the warmth of your hands. So it's like it's a physical interpretation of what I just explained.
Did you come up with the concept of putting all this together?
Yeah, that's how it all came to be, and well. If I were to talk to you about like the process, I was first thinking of just creating a whole cube of these thermal active panels, this entire place to be just fully, you touch it anywhere, everywhere, and it changes color, and then you have these imprints that are that are like, you know, like pieces of yourself that are that stay there for a while. But then I thought, why not integrate like more dynamic things? And that's how we came up with the reflective camera and the screen that shows the reflective camera. And then in the space itself, there's also a projection of that camera. So even the people around the pavilion or around the structure
Right.
can see people inside the cube
Right.
and their effect on it. The space itself also has like a wall of canvas where you can also
Which I saw. That was
Yeah,
pretty cool.
you
That you
can-
incorporated some nature into the high
yeah,
tech.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think you've seen that because we just recently put it.
You're
but
talking about like the algae plant thing.
yeah, that is
I'm calling it algae. But
yeah, it's moss. I'll
Right,
get back to that in
okay.
a second. But the space itself, there are 2 walls where we have walls of canvas and trays of paint, and you can like put your handprint and then
Oh,
put your handprint on that canvas, and then
very cool.
people can come and see what you've like. It's a nice commemoration of people who have passed this art piece or installation, and we're in the conversation to actually reuse and repurpose that canvas to be merchandise. So like
Right.
tote bags, and then and like maybe T-shirts and all of that. This canvas material is to be, you know, reimagined as you know, pieces of this installation, a memory of this installation. But the moss that you talked about, so in that box or in that, you know, gazebo
Right. Yeah.
thing going on, like this cube that you enter, when you have that, we have a strip of panels that are the thermoactive panels. Across from that is the panels of moss, and that's natural moss. And I wanted to create that, you know, again, add more dynamic elements into this, and then this element of nature and greenery against that heat, reflective panels creates a nice balance,
Mhm.
or asks you and prompts you to reflect
Right.
on the complexities of these 2 things
Sure.
facing each other, and
Right.
perhaps even having dialogue.
Right.
So
That's a very interesting way to look at it. Now,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about the youth. I know we spoke last time a bit about this. What do you think of, what do you call the certain age bracket that exists now? Gen X, is it? No,
Gen Z.
I'm Gen X.
yeah, it's
I'm the
Gen-
old school, Gen Z, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to look at today's youth, or Gen Z, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, how aware do you think they are of what is happening today in terms of, you know, COP28, all things sustainability, the future, renewable energy? Are they on board with it? I'm asking you. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, because, you know, you being 20 years old and you get to mix with a lot of people around your age group.
Yeah.
What is the mindset?
I can't speak for all of them because I don't necessarily know what exactly they are for, what they're against. But I will have to say it is probably more, I don't want to say maybe like reassuring
Right.
in a sense, because I feel like we grew up with these concepts. We
That's
grew up
true.
with these concepts in our school books.
Right.
We grew up hearing these things on the radio, on the way to school, news, parents. But I think with your generation, it was fairly a new concept that was introduced.
Correct.
So it was a bit more of like for us, it's like it's the norm.
Right.
It's what
It is the norm.
Yeah.
Right.
So it is definitely and naturally within our conversations.
Sure.
And within our subconscious. So we see recycling bins all around us, and we never think twice, you know?
Now, let's talk a little bit more about some of the government initiatives or the overall support
Yeah.
that is provided to the youth today in order to obviously not just raise awareness and educate them about sustainability, but to also be able to find ways to incorporate it into their professional lives the way you have.
Yeah.
You've made a career out of
Yeah.
a lot of things that are related to sustainability. What sort of initiatives are there or in place for today's youth?
That can integrate into so many areas and so many professions.
First of all, let's ask a question.
Yeah.
Is there support? from the government sector
like
to the youth?
sustainability with
Right.
the profession.
In terms of
Yeah.
supporting the youth.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we were talking once upon a time about all these different places that
Yeah.
exist in Abu Dhabi, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
So, do you think there's enough in place for today's youth to be able to adopt this mindset of linking sustainability to professionalism or to the workplace or the future
Yeah.
careers, right?
100%. 100% in terms of, because when I look at myself and I see other people around me in that, realm of creativity, for example, let's just stick to creativity. I think it depends on the professional himself or themselves on how they want to integrate it. If they really care about the sustainability, about the environment, global warming, and climate change, they would, one way or another, incorporate it into their profession, but the support for their profession is already there. And of course, if they do bring up and propose integrating sustainability, it would definitely, have a green pass. So in terms of like the resources that we have, there are so many, and I can just start with where I live or where my university is in Saadiyat Island, and there's a place called Cultural District. There's Guggenheim being built right now. There is the Louvre that is present. There is Zayed Heritage Museum, I believe, and Natural History Museum. And then, of course, we have NYUAD, and we have one thing that is actually really, really interesting from NYUAD that I've just recently learned about, even though I'm just graduating, but they have seasonal mangrove plant day, where they go out, like a huge team just goes out at like 5 a.m. and they just grow mangroves. Like they have all little like these nursery mangroves, and they just go and plant them.
I've actually seen that and I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I was actually I went to the mangroves not too long ago, just kayaking, and the instructor was talking to us about that, about planting the mangrove trees in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, and it's so cute. They have like their purple vests and everything,
Right.
and I think that's really great. And then one thing I also learned about Saadiyat is that they also have like turtles that naturally hatch and go into the water, and they close all the beaches that days, so they know when these turtles go out and into the ocean.
That is so cool. Where? In Saadiyat Island?
Yeah, in
How
Saadiyat.
often does that happen?
I think maybe like twice a year.
I'm gonna
Twice a
check
year.
that out.
It's
That
like
is really cool.
seasonal. And I think it's like you can watch it happen.
That is really cool.
I think. But like it's I think that like a governmental entity that is focused on environment and sustainability is there to make sure everything's going well, and no one is there to interrupt the turtles on their journey, things like that.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So I know you also do a lot of painting, and you somehow managed to extract paint from rocks.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because, for the most part, it almost doesn't make sense. Like, how do you get paint out of rocks?
Yeah, I thought so too as well. But
How did you first come across this? I mean, did you see it being done somewhere else and you tried it, or?
I know you can naturally extract pigment from many things.
Okay.
I mean, that's how dyes started, like days ago, Renaissance era. All these paints that we have right now in these tubes came from a source.
Right.
And I mean, you can basically do them yourself. You can create your own oil paints, that's for sure. But that idea came across to me in when I wanted to create my capstone project. So I'm actually in midst of creating that and working on it. And the project itself encompasses the idea of the village that my mother grew up in Northern Emirates. It's called CG. And it's a very mountainous area. And I grew up, a lot of my childhood memories were in that place. And I wanted to center my entire project there, and I thought it would be a really nice, homage. And it's very different than the rest of my work. And I was so excited for that. But I definitely wanted to continue painting. So a lot of that body of work that centers around CG includes some sculptures where I use these rocks. But then when it came to my painting, I didn't want to just regularly do any like oil painting and just, paint the landscape. So I was like, of course, with a lot of advisory sessions with a lot of my mentors, I came to a conclusion of I need to figure out a way to crush these rocks and create pigment from them. So I grabbed my hat. Like, of course, I consulted. We have an instructor who works a lot with wood and works a lot with, building and fabricating things. So I consulted him first, and we came to the conclusion that I'll need to crush these rocks by hand, get them to the, maybe bite-sized, smaller-sized rocks or stones,
Right.
pebbles size.
Sure.
And these rocks are naturally soft, so that was pretty easy. I just have to put my goggles, my headphones, and then just go ham.
Right.
And then once they're in like pebble size, I would grab a mortar and pestle and keep crushing. That would take a while. I'm in the midst of trying to find another process that may be grinding in a machine or anything like that. But I'm in the process of like testing it out, and it works. Once you get that like.
Did you draw anything yet?
Yeah. So once you get that like very fine powder from
Yes.
these pebbles, taking like hours and hours of just mortar and pestle.
Well, isn't it easier to just go buy paint?
I mean, sure, but it's not special anymore.
Right, and it's not sustainable, right?
I mean, the paints are already there in the store, aren't they?
Right. Well, that's true. That's true. They've been made.
But once you get that powder, you mix it with gum arabic and then some water.
Gum arabic and water.
And then you just paint with it. And you have, on the canvas, and I'm using raw canvas here, you get like little sediments and little like, I don't want to say leftovers, but like, I feel like you find a texture which is really, really interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You also try to extract pigments, I believe, from trees
From
or
leaves, yeah, from leaves as well. So
Any success with that?
Yeah, so that's much more easier process because
Okay.
it's much more known. You can go on YouTube and like search on like how to create natural pigments from leaves and whatever. So I've done that, and that is, so the painting itself is depicting the land. So I'm using the land to depict the land, and I'm using these leaves to paint the trees and the palm trees and the wheat that is there, and yeah. And whenever there is like a color that is unattainable, I would mix it with a like a small amount of acrylic paint to just edit that color to be a bit more dynamic. At the end of the day, I want the painting to be a bit more
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, that was like not my first, but I think this is like kind of like my journey to explore more of how I can create art from the urban landscape around me. And I think that stemmed from a sculpture that I made last year, collaborating with Jason Cruz and Jennifer Tsai. It was for the Christone Jean-Claude Award, and it's basically 3 4x5 meter sculptures of threads, and that are red, that are assembled in a way that it's going over and under the earth, as if like Abu Dhabi city or the country or even the world is a piece of fabric.
Right.
And these are the threads,
threads.
that are like the loose threads and the tight stitches
Right.
around the city.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What inspired you to do that?
I mean, like when we were applying for the prize, we have to create something in the essence of Christone Jean-Claude, and they work a lot with fabric. And we thought, okay, what is the simplest form of what a fabric is?
Sure.
And that's the thread. And
Right.
we like almost flipped the script on imagining the fabric, and then fabricating the threads.
Right.
It's permanently right now in Roudhah Almazroei, and it's really cool. You can see like one of the first essential bridges in the UAE, which is Maqta Bridge, like along with the thread.
That is very cool.
Really cool.
Now, what's next for Roudhah? What do we expect from her? You're always working on something cool. There's always something exciting, from collecting rocks and getting the pigments to creating projects using Abu Dhabi as the canvas with the threads going inside of it.
Yeah.
What else can we expect from you? Of course, not to mention the cool installation.
Yeah,
that I
it's
visited.
called Transcendence.
Transcendence.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What else can we expect in the future? What do you have in mind?
So right now, I just want to finish my capstone. I want to graduate.
Right.
I graduate inshallah in May. So I want to finish with that, get my defense done, all of those stuff.
Take a little break and then think about what's coming in the future.
I think once I'm in like the tip of finishing, something will come up.
Right.
But I don't know now yet what it is.
Now, by the way, just wanted to ask you, obviously since today is themed after youth and children, to use this platform provided to us by Trends, what sort of message does Roudhah Almazroei want to share with the youth and the children who are actually listening or possibly watching? What would you like to say to them?
I would say that, for example, like right here, right now, I feel so grateful to be in like the place like the UAE that supports me as much as it can. And my message to the youth is to take advantage of it, because you never know when it will, you never know if it's going to be here when you're a bit older, or if it's going to be available for your children in the future. So take advantage of it. It's there for you. So, you know, I'm surrounded by so many spirited and motivated people, and it's really lovely to see how much excitement and how much, you know, thrive and hunger they have for exceptional work and exceptional creativity. So it's never wrong to say that I'd love to see even more of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And before we wrap things up, obviously we're here at COP28. What are your expectations from COP28? What would you like to see happen by the end of this event?
Well, I'd like to go to the blue zone, like once it's open, and then maybe I can say what I'd like to see more.
So once you've finished experiencing.
Once I finish experiencing it. But I've seen so many like art projects. So I saw like the artisans and what they've created, and I think that's really, really cool, you know, tying it back to our heritage.
So maybe
in the
incorporating
UAE.
more art.
Definitely incorporating more. Why not?
All right. Sounds good. Well, listen, it was very lovely to have you here. We look forward to having you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, that was another episode of Trending Echoes. I was your host, Omar. Be sure to tune in to the next interview coming tomorrow, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.